night we'll gather from the plain, shouting the battle cry of freedom, the Union forever. Hurrah, boys, hurrah! Down with the traitor, up with the star, while we rally round the flag, boys, rally once again, shouting the battle cry of freedom. We are springing to the call of our brothers gone before, shouting the battle cry of freedom, and we'll fill the vacant ranks with 1,000,000 free men more, shouting the battle cry of freedom, the Union forever. Hurrah, boys, hurrah! Down with the traitor, up with the star, while we rally round the flag, boys, rally once again, shouting the battle cry of freedom. We will welcome to our numbers the loyal, true, and brave, shouting the battle cry of freedom. And although they may be poor, not a man shall be a slave, shouting the battle cry of freedom, the Union forever. Hurrah, boys, hurrah! Down with the traitor, up with the star, while we rally round the flag, boys.
Hi, welcome to Channel 4 News. My name is Lily Simonson.
And I'm Anthony Ramirez.
First, let's start with headlines. Slavery in America began when the first African American slaves were brought to North America. It mostly happened in the 17th and 18th centuries. They mainly worked in indigo, rice, and tobacco fields. They were treated very, very badly.
The Underground Railroad wasn't an actual railroad. It was a secret network of routes to escape slavery used by enslaved African Americans. It went way down south to high up north. Harriet Tubman was a famous conductor and a leader of many. Their goal was to reach the Promised Land, which was high up in Canada. By the 1857, the United States was close to breaking apart. Many wondered if it can survive half free, half slave. For the reason of Abraham Lincoln, this nation is agreeing with his statements. Most people hated his way of thinking. By 1857, the United States became the first un-United States.
South Carolina seceded. South Carolina seceded on 1863. They were mad that Abraham Lincoln was elected president. South Carolina is the first to secede. I think more states will start.
Now for more information about the Underground Railroad, we got a play from the Brandon Valley Intermediate School.
Students, today we will be talking about the Underground Railroad. Before we begin, let's find out what we already know. Zach?
People take the Underground Railroad to work every day in big cities.
No, you're thinking of the subway.
Aren't subways underground railroads?
Yes, but
Oh, I thought you said I was wrong.
you are wrong.
No, misplaced. I'm confused.
Jesse, you have your hand up. Can you please help Zach out?
I was just gonna say that I rode the subway once when I visited New York City. It was fun.
We're not talking about the subway, We're talking about the Underground Railroad back in the mid-1800s. The Underground Railroad helped slaves escape to freedom.
Slaves took the subway to freedom?
Casey, please pay attention.
Yes, ma'am.
The Fugitive Slave Act of 1850 made it illegal for people to help slaves run away, so there had to be a secret way to help slaves.
I get it. So they built a subway from the southern states to the northern states. Awesome.
No, not awesome.
You mean you believe slaves should have remained in captivity?
Of course not, but no one took the subway. The Underground Railroad wasn't a real train.
It wasn't real?
Are you saying that when slaves went to get on the train, it wasn't there?
How do you make a whole train disappear?
All aboard the invisible train. It isn't real, so it'll take you nowhere. All aboard.
If you listen for just 1 minute, it was called the Underground Railroad because, like I said, it was a secret way to reach the northern states.
Oh, a secret train.
Like
the Hogwarts Express. Harry Potter rules.
Everyone, pay attention. The Underground Railroad wasn't a train. It wasn't a subway. It was simply a way slaves reached freedom. I passed out some note cards which have some important facts about the Underground Railroad. Kelly, you begin, please.
In 1850, land in southern United States stretched as far as the eye could see.
Cotton and sugarcane were plentiful.
Because these crops were all picked by hand, plantation owners had slaves to do all the work.
This was hard work, and slaves weren't paid any wages.
Many slaves worked in the fields until their dying days.
Other slaves chose to run away.
People in the North were called abolitionists. They helped slaves make their way to the northern states where each man, woman, and child could live lives of freedom.
But they had to do it in secret, so slave catchers wouldn't find out what they were up to.
These secret routes later became known as the Underground Railroad.
Does that help everyone understand a little bit better?
Yes, ma'am.
Sure does.
Absolutely, but Harry Potter still rules.
I still have one question.
Yes, Kelly?
How long did it take abolitionists to dig an underground tunnel for that many miles?
Miss Bliss, I think I can help her understand.
Thank you, Jessie.
Okay, even though it was called a railroad, it wasn't a real railroad. In other words, this railroad didn't have conductors.
But the Underground Railroad actually did have conductors.
But it didn't have stations.
It actually had stations, too.
Then I'm more confused than a termite on a yo-yo.
Sorry, Miss Bliss, you're on your own.
Everyone, have a seat. We're going to learn this, even if it takes all night.
Oh man, Harry Potter's on Disney Channel tonight.
Let's go take a look with Shayna with the Battle of Fort Sumter.
Hi, I'm Shayna reporting live with Catherine Gray, who is a citizen who witnessed the Battle of Fort Sumter. Catherine, how did you feel about this?
Well, it was very scary. There was a bunch of bombs going off, and some of the cannons were only a mile or two away. And so I had to get my two little kids and my oldest daughter into the cellar before anything happened. And so we got them into the cellar, and we got them food and everything they needed. And I lived on the mainland, right by the coast in South Carolina, Charleston Harbor, and we watched it. It was very scary, and it was on April 2nd around 2:30 p.m. And Robert Anderson, I'm pretty sure it was, occupied the fort because it was right after South Carolina seceded, because it was the only fort they had left in South Carolina, and so then the South did not like that, and so they bombarded the fort, and only one Union soldier died and one seriously wounded during the evacuation, and it was super, super scary. And this probably means the start of the Civil War.
Thank you, Catherine, for giving us more information. Let's take it back to Anthony and Lily.
There's a battle going on right now with the Battle of Bull Run, and we have an interviewer over there. Shayna, what do you have for us?
Hi, I am live with Samara Hoff, who is a journalist from the newspaper that saw the Battle of Bull Run happen. Samara, what happened?
I'm the journalist from the newspaper Civil War Print, and as I was just sitting atop a hill, I started hearing screaming and gunfire. When I looked down, I saw a battle going by Manassas Junction, by a small river called Bull Run in Manassas Junction, Virginia. What happened was 35,000 Union soldiers marched all the way from Washington, D.C. to fight a small force of 20,000 Confederate soldiers. The battle lasted very long, and soon at a late time, the North marched all the way back to Washington, D.C. and lost the battle. And the whole time I was there, and I just sat there and watched.
Thank you, Samara, for giving us more information on this topic. Let's take it back to Anthony and Lily.
Let's go take a look at sports with Cohen Hunter.
Hi, this is Cohen Hunter with the sports. Today we will be talking about what men in the war played to get their minds off the war. Some games they played were cards and poker. They also had clubs. They had acting and drama clubs. The drama clubs would act for the men in the camps. When they act, it got the war out of everybody's mind. People really enjoyed drama club, and everybody got excited when they performed. Sometimes the drama club would perform comedies which got the entire camp laughing. During this time, children played games. Some of the games they played are stickball, croquet, tennis, hide and go seek, blind man's bluff, duck duck goose, jacks. That's all for today. I'll see you at home base tomorrow. Back to Lily and Anthony.
Let's go take a look what Shayna has over the Battle of Shiloh.
I am live with Dylan, who was a farmer who saw the Battle of Shiloh unfold. Dylan, tell me what you saw.
Hi, I'm Dylan Langrock, and I just witnessed the Battle of Shiloh. It started on the morning of April 6, 1862, on my farm in the Pittsburgh Landing by the Tennessee River. I was just sitting on my porch drinking coffee as I do every morning, when all of a sudden I hear gunshots ring out. So I ran off my porch thinking that someone was shooting my cows. But when I got to my field, the cows were nowhere in sight, but soldiers were. Union soldiers were being backed. More and more Confederate soldiers were pouring out of the nearby woods. By then I was moving back to hide behind a big bush, but then everything stopped, and I noticed that one of the generals was shot, Albert Sidney Johnston. He was shot in the leg and fell to the ground. He quickly bled to death. He was the highest ranking general on either side killed during the war. Now Grant is joined by another force, Bull's Army. Grant counterattacked on April 7th. By nightfall, the Confederates were backed up to the Shiloh Church, and the Union had gained back the Hornets' Nest, Peach Orchard, and Billy Pond. The Confederates finally gave up and went back to Corinth, giving Grant a major victory. What I saw after the battle was hard to believe. More than 13,000 of Grant and Bull's army of about 62,000 were killed or wounded. 10,000 out of the 45,000 Confederates killed. By far of the 23,000 combined casualties, it was the bloodiest battle of the Civil War. It ended on April 7, 1862.
Thank you, Dylan. Let's go back to Anthony and Lily.
Our weather reporter, Wacky Wayne, has the news about the weather for the war. What do you have, Wacky Wayne?
Wacky Wayne, I'm here to talk about the weather and the drastic impacts that it had on the Civil War. Weather was one of the leading causes of death in the Civil War. The heat, the massive heat in the South, right there, that's the South, all right, caused a lot of problems there, especially in the prison camp of Andersonville. Andersonville was a prison camp where thousands of Union soldiers were taken to, and it was out in the bright, hot heat of the sun, so a lot of people died from starvation and dehydration. Also, weather affected the cold, blistery north, okay? In Chicago at Camp Douglas, where frostbite and amputations really took the lives of a lot of soldiers. These infections would then often cause different diseases from weather-related incidents. Rain, for instance, caused stagnant water in which they would not only drink out of, but they would bathe in that water. Mosquitoes surrounded these camps with malaria. And not to mention they would drink out of the same water that they bathed in. It would cause stomach viruses that led to diarrhea. Okay? And one of the top causes of death in the Civil War was diarrhea. This contaminated water made even the ducks on my tie not want to swim in it. All right? So, take that, mini ball. You were beat out by something a little more explosive. All right, so you might say the weather caused a hurricane of problems for the soldiers. As they tornadoed through 4 long years of war, disease and weather caused them to croak more than the tsunami of bullets from the weapons. That's all for the Civil War weather. I'm Wacky Wayne. Stay hydrated, my friends. Back to the studio.
Let's go take a look with Shayna with the Battle of Antietam.
I am live with Ty, who witnessed the Battle of Antietam. Ty, tell me what you saw.
Hi, my name is Ty, and I just witnessed the Battle of Antietam. It was the morning of September 17th, 1862, on my farm, near Antietam Creek in Sharpsburg, Maryland. I went out to drink my coffee on the porch, and I heard a whole bunch of gunfire and cannon shots. I went up onto the hill where I could see everything, and I saw a whole bunch of fighting down by the creek. I saw people charging after each other, and I saw falling people one by one. There was a huge line of people, and they just fell in 1 second. That is what I saw.
Thank you, Ty. Let's go back to Anthony and Lily.
Abraham Lincoln is about to speak his very important proclamation. Let's go take a look with Shayna there.
Now after the Battle of Antietam, I think we should do this proclamation. That on the first day of January, 1863, all persons held as slaves within any state or designated part of a state shall and forever be free. And the executive government of the United States, including the military and naval authority, will recognize and maintain the freedom of such persons and will do no act or acts to repress such persons or any of them in any efforts they may make for their actual freedom. And I hereby enjoin upon the people so declared to be free to abstain from all violence unless in necessary self-defense, and I recommend to them that in all cases when allowed they may labor faithfully for reasonable wages. And I further declare and make known that such persons of suitable condition will be received into the armed service of the United States to garrison forts, positions, stations, and other places, and to man vessels of all sorts in said service. And upon this act, sincerely believed to be an act of justice, warranted by the Constitution upon military necessity, I invoke the considerate judgment of mankind and the gracious favor of Almighty God.
Okay, there's a battle going on, and we have a reporter there. Shayna, what do you have with us?
I am live with Chance, who is a citizen who saw the fall of Vicksburg. Chance, tell us a little about this.
Hi, yes. Right now we're standing on my farm in Vicksburg, Mississippi. It was a 47-day siege. It started May 18th, 1863, and ended today on July 4th, 1863. The victory of the Union gave control to the Mississippi River. When the Confederacy ran out of food, they had to eat rats. Thanks to the victory of Vicksburg, the Confederacy was split in half. Now the Anaconda Plan was almost complete. Now, Ulysses S. Grant is sickened by the sight of thousands of dead and wounded. Later he wrote, after the battle, one naturally wants to do as much to stop the suffering of an enemy as a friend.
Thank you, Chance. Let's go back to Anthony and Lily.
Shayna's in an interview with someone who knows so much about Ulysses S. Grant, and now we're going to take a look at the interview. What do you have for us?
Hi, I'm Shayna, reporting live with Catherine Gray. Catherine, tell us a little bit about Ulysses S. Grant.
Hi, I'm Kathleen Gray, and I'm from the Daily New York Tablet. When Ulysses S. Grant was graduated from West Point Academy, Grant was stationed in St. Louis, Missouri. There he met his future wife, Julia Dent. Grant's first battle was the Mexican-American War, where he served as a quartermaster. That's when you oversee all of the movement of supplies. He served under General Zachary Taylor and General Winfield Scott. He always watched their tactics and leadership skills. Grant was credited for his bravery under fire not too long ago. Grant thought that the war was going wrong. After Grant and Julia were engaged for 4 years, they finally got married in 1848. Over the years, the couple had 4 children. In 1852, Grant was sent to Fort Vancouver. In 1853, Grant was promoted to captain and transferred to Fort Humboldt on the northern California coast. There, he met the fort's commanding officer, Lieutenant Colonel Robert C. Buchanan. On July 31st, 1854, Grant resigned from the Army due to heavy drinking. April 13th, 1861. The Confederate troops attacked Fort Sumter in Charleston Harbor, South Carolina. This made Ulysses S. Grant want to join the Army again. He got accepted thanks to an Illinois congressman. In the fall of 1861, Grant took the small town of Paducah, Kentucky. In February 1862, Grant's ground forces took Fort Henry and Fort Donelson. After that, Grant got the name Unconditional Surrender Grant. He was then promoted to General of Volunteers. April 1862, Ulysses S. Grant moved his army into Tennessee. This then became the Battle of Shiloh, one of the bloodiest battles that we have seen. Albert Sidney Johnston and Puget T. Beauregard led a surprise attack on Grant's forces. Sometime later, reinforcement finally arrived and Grant was able to defeat the Confederate troops. Grant faced heavy criticism, though supported by Abraham Lincoln. For a time, sometime Grant was demoted. The Union war strategy meant they had to take control of the Mississippi River. December 1862, Grant and his forces moved overland to take a key fortress for the Confederacy, Vicksburg. His attack was stalled by cavalry raider Nathan Bedford Forrest. After several assaults to take the city, no such luck. He finally settled for a long siege and cut supply lines. Vicksburg finally surrendered on July 4th, 1863. October 1863, Grant took command at Chattanooga, Tennessee, November 22nd to 25th. The Union routed Confederate troops in Tennessee at the battles of Lookout Mountain and Missionary Ridge. Known all as one as the Battle of Chattanooga. This forced the Confederates to retreat to Georgia, ending the siege. Grant then got promoted to the General of the Union Army, ultimately paving the way for General William Tecumseh Sherman's Atlanta's campaign and march to Savannah, Georgia in 1864. Grant adamantly believed that taking down the Confederate was not the most important in the war. On April 9th, 1865, Robert E. Lee surrendered his army at the Appomattox Courthouse. A peace agreement was signed in a very magnanimous gesture. That is the biography of General Ulysses S. Grant. Catherine Gray from the Daily New York Tattler. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Let's go back to Anthony and Lily.
Let's go take a look at the newest episode of the Fine Klein Show. What do you have for us, Braden?
Welcome to the Fine Klein Show. I have experts that know some stuff about the Civil War here. We have Afton, who is a woman from the war. Garrett, he's an expert on the Fighting 54. Renee knows the strengths and weaknesses of both armies. Miles is the president of Civil War Tech. And Keegan owns his own business over strategies. So the strategy he has been studying is the Anaconda Plan. Keegan, can you tell us about the Anaconda Plan?
My name is Keegan and I am a president of the strategies company, which makes me an expert. First, the Anaconda Plan was made by the North. The Anaconda Plan was made to cut off food supplies, ammo, guns, and powder. The Anaconda Plan took place in the early 1861. I think the Anaconda Plan was good because they surrounded them. They don't get their supplies. What did the Anaconda Plan do? It cut off all supplies, ammo, food, water. The Anaconda Plan took place at the Mississippi River. The news was about the Northern strategy to win. Second of all, the Southern strategies. While the North worked on the Anaconda Plan, the South prepared to defend the homeland. They tried to make a blockade. British ships would break blockades.
Thanks, Keegan. So to pursue a plan, that you're going to need weapons. So can you tell us about some of the technology from the Civil War?
Yes, I can. This is Miles Rye, the expert, talking about civil technology. I'm president of Civil Tech because I know everything about technology. Lots of guns were made in the Civil War times, and some guns were used again before the Civil War. Cannons that were used from the Confederacy was the Congreve rocket, which was very inaccurate. Another one was rolling gun, which was rapid fire. Guns that Confederacy used were sometimes older because their supplies were limited because of the
Gorgas gun was a cannon that was a manual crank cannon and was very inaccurate. The Poker gun was also manual, hand-loaded, also inaccurate. Fayetteville rifled musket was a rifle musket and could shoot 500 to 800 yards. Now they're Union guns and cannons. The Union had more supplies so they could have better guns faster. One gun that they used was the Gatling gun that had 6 barrels that could fire 350 rounds per minute, used in Petersburg campaign in 1863. Calcium floodlights was used in the lighthouses to blind enemies with the illuminated artillery target. This was Miles Ryan reporting now. Firing off!
Thanks, Miles. I have Garrett here who knows a lot about the Fighting 54. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, my name is Garrett. I'm an expert at the Fighting 54th. The Fighting 54th was when the governor of Massachusetts, John A. Andrew, issued a call for black soldiers. This event happened on July of 1863. It quieted all doubters. It was so effective to people. This was an assault for black soldiers at Fort Wagner. It took place at Fort Wagner on the 18th of July in the year 1863. The 54th Massachusetts prepared to raid Fort Wagner. As night came, Shaw took his men to the fort. The Fighting 54th lost the battle at Fort Wagner, but did a great amount of damage. The 54th Massachusetts returned to Boston in the year of 1865. This all happened in early February of 1863. Movie Glory tells the story of the 54th Massachusetts. It won Academy Awards 3 times. The 54th were fighting for injustice. The 54th dumped all Confederate bodies into a single unmarked trench. The Confederates abandoned Fort Wagner. 54th Massachusetts soldiers went to training camps for 2 weeks. The leader of the 54th was Robert Goodshaw, a young white officer. He was injured at the Battle of Antietam. He was just 25 years old, and he dropped out of Harvard to join the war. It was the first regiment of North Blacks. The 54 men were outgunned and outnumbered. Massachusetts did not have very many African American residents. Fathers and sons came to fight in the 54th Massachusetts. A sculpture by the name of Augustus St. Gaudens unveiled a memorial to the 54th Massachusetts.
Thanks, Garrett.
Yep.
I have Renee here, and she knows the strengths and weaknesses of both armies. Can you tell me those strengths and weaknesses?
The South planned a defense corps, which is easier for the military to win. But the North had more than twice the population of the South, making the South have less than half the population of the North, and 1/3 were enslaved people. More than 3/4 of U.S. Navy officers came from the North, and 90% of the Navy stayed in the North. The South had 1/3 of the nation's officers join the Confederate Army, including Robert E. Lee, the most respected general in the Army. But 80% of the U.S. factories were in the North. But the South had less money to support the war effort than did the North. The South had only one producing cannons and no major factory for making gunpowder. Southerners were more skilled at shooting, hunting, and riding, while in the North, they weren't as skilled. All the firearms were made in the North, making it hard to get food, weapons, and other supplies because South had half as many miles of railroad track as the North.
Thanks, Renee. I have Afton here, who is a woman from the war. Can you tell us about some of the women from the war?
I was one of a bunch of women. I had a best friend. Her name was Carrie Berry. Carrie and I worked together as bakers. We both lived in North America. Baking was changed both of our lives because one day, one girl, she was working in the bakery with us, and she was only 12 years old. I can tell you about my friend Carrie Berry. On August 3rd, 1854, Carrie Berry was born. April 12, 1861, the Civil War begins. December 7, 1864, Carrie Berry's sister Maggie was born. May 1921, Carrie Berry dies. I miss her very much, but I know I still have her. Mary Walker was also one of my friends. She was a brave woman. She was the one who wore us women to wear pants. Mary was a woman that did all the stuff that men do. Like she thinks women should be able to vote. She was the first to go into the army. Dr. Walker got put into jail. Mary was the only one to win the Congress Medal of Honor. Another one of my friends was Clara Barton. She was founder of the Red Cross. Her full name was Clarissa Howard Barton. Clara grew up on a farm in Oxford, Massachusetts. Clara lived to be 91. Her last words were, "Let me go."
Thanks, Afton. Well, that's all we have today for the Fine Klein Show. Back to Lily and Anthony.
Shayna's interviewing a person over Stonewall Jackson that knows a lot about him. Let's take a look.
Hi, I'm Shayna, reporting live with Dylan. Dylan, tell us a little about Thomas Stonewall Jackson.
Hi, thanks. I'm Dylan Langrock for the New York Times. Thomas Stonewall Jackson graduated from the U.S. Military Academy at West Point, New York in time to fight in the Mexican War. After the war, he left the military to teach as a professor for 10 years. Jackson desperately wanted his home state of Virginia to stay in the Union, but joined the Confederate Army when Virginia seceded. Thomas Jackson earned the name Stonewall Jackson in the Battle of Bull Run. That one was when he rushed his troops forward to close a gap in the Confederate line. Then a young fellow general reportedly said, "Look, men, there is a Jackson standing like a stone wall." Later, Thomas Stonewall Jackson was promoted to Major General in October 1861. Him and his troops played key roles at the Second Battle of Bull Run, the Battle of Antietam, the Battle of Fredericksburg, and the Battle of Chancellorsville. Lee and Jackson's famous victory was the Battle of Chancellorsville. They were outnumbered 130,000 to 60,000 of their own. On May 2nd, Jackson quickly took 28,000 troops on a 15-mile march to the back of the Union Army. That forced the Union to move forward and withdraw 2 days later. At sunset, Jackson went to the woods with some men to scout ahead, but a North Carolina regiment mistook them for enemy and opened fire, severely wounding Jackson. The doctors amputated his left arm. On May 10, 1863, at the age of 39, he died from pneumonia. Thomas Stonewall Jackson was buried in Lexington, Virginia.
Thank you, Dylan. Let's go back to Anthony and Lily.
I hear there's a bloodbath going on. Let's go take a look with Shayna at the Battle of Gettysburg.
I am live with Sarah, who was a journalist from the newspaper who watched the Battle of Gettysburg unfold. Sarah, tell me what you saw.
I'm Sarah Roman, and I just witnessed the Battle of Gettysburg. It happened July 1st through 3rd, 1863. It was yet another battle between the Union and the Confederacy. The Union won this battle. I just heard Ulysses S. Grant say, "In every battle there is a time when both sides consider themselves beaten. Who continues the attack wins." The Battle of Gettysburg was the bloodiest battle in the Civil War. Over 51,000 between the two troops were dead, missing, injured in this battle. This battle is very important because this might be the turning point of the war. The Battle of Gettysburg happened because the Union and Confederacy collided at Pennsylvania July 1st, 1863. This battle affected many families because wives lost their husbands and mothers lost their sons and sisters lost their brothers. The way I feel about this is a little scared for the next battle. I mainly feel sad for children, moms, and wives who lost family or loved ones. This was the most people I've ever seen killed on a battlefield.
Thank you, Sarah. Let's go back to Anthony and Lily.
After the bloodiest battle in American history, Abraham Lincoln has shown up on the field of the War of Gettysburg, and now he's releasing the Gettysburg Address.
I would now like to welcome the President of the United States, Abraham Lincoln.
Fourscore and 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation, so conceived and so dedicated, can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who gave their lives, that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper we should do this. But in larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot this ground, brave men living and the dead who struggled here have consecrated it, far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little know nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us living rather to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here, the great task before us. From these honored dead, we take increased devotion to which they gave their last full measure of devotion. That we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, but this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and the government of the people, by the people, for the people shall not perish from the earth.
The Battle of Sherman's March to Sea is going on right now. Let's go take a look what Shayna has for us.
Hi, I'm live with Fred Reich, who was a soldier who fought in Sherman's March to the Sea. Fred, how did you feel about this?
Well, Shayna, it was quite terrifying. Me and my fellow messmates didn't know it was going to be this horrible. And, it was a nice, relaxing day in Atlanta, Georgia, but all that was about to change. Our General William T. Sherman led us across a 285-mile march, with me and 6,000 other men. We marched in Confederate territory and killed livestock and crop life. We also destroyed 50 miles long and 300 miles wide of land. We finally reached Savannah, Georgia on October 5th. Oh my. On November 15, 1864. Finally, battle broke out and lasted until today. We surprise attacked. We killed and wounded over 650 Confederate soldiers and lost 62 men. The rest is just too brutal to share.
Well, thank you for this information, Fred. Let's take it back to Anthony and Lily.
Shayna's in an interview with someone who's basically an expert on Robert E. Lee. What do you have for us, Shayna?
Hi, I'm Shayna, reporting live with Samara Hoffman. Samara, tell us a little bit about Robert E. Lee.
Hi, I'm Samara Hoffman from the Civil War Print, delivering your daily journal. Lee had to make a hard decision to leave the Union Army or to stay with his home. When Virginia seceded on April 18, 1861, Lee started to lead the Confederate forces. In May of 1862, he took control of the Northern Virginia Army. In August, he had a crucial victory at Second Manassas. He and his army barely made it through the Battle of Antietam. 14,000 of his men were wounded, captured, or killed. July 1st to July 3rd, 1863, his army took another round of casualties from the Battle of Gettysburg in Pennsylvania. His army was destroyed. 1865 was the year that Robert E. Lee surrendered to General Grant at a private home in Appomattox, Virginia. He said, "I suppose there is nothing for me to do but go and see General Grant," he said, "and I would rather die 1,000 deaths."
Thank you, Samara. Let's go back to Anthony and Lily.
Breaking news, Robert E. Lee is surrendering to Ulysses S. Grant at the Appomattox Courthouse.
Thanks, guys. I'm Braden Klein, standing right in front of Ulysses S. Grant and Robert E. Lee. Robert E. Lee just surrendered to Ulysses S. Grant. The siege of Vicksburg was too much for Robert E. Lee's army. A lot of Southerners don't agree with Robert E. Lee's surrender. The South has bigger plantations, so they needed slaves to work their plantations. A lot of Southerners are paying people to work half of their plantations. Ulysses S. Grant respects Robert E. Lee so much that he is letting the South keep their weapons and horses. He also lets the Southern troops be free. Now we have a long Reconstruction ahead of us. Back to you guys.
Breaking news, we've just been informed that Abraham Lincoln has just been shot at Forks Theater, and now they're taking him across the street where they're trying to take care of him. We have a report over there, and what do you have for us, Shayna?
I'm Shana Trevino reporting for Channel 4 News, and I have just found out that President Lincoln has just been shot. John Wilkes Booth, a famous actor, shot President Abraham Lincoln. The attack came only 5 days after Confederate General Robert E. Lee surrendered at the Appomattox Courthouse, which ended the Civil War. The assassination of Lincoln, however, left the venerable Andrew Jackson worthy to take his place. Could he live up to Lincoln's ideals? Lincoln's killer entered his final stages, and he and some of his associates planned on kidnapping the president and taking him to the Confederate capital. But the day of the killing, Lincoln didn't appear where Booth and his associates were waiting. 4 out of 6 of Booth's associates were part of the assassination and were conducted to a hanging on July 7th. This has been such a tragic thing that has happened. Let's bring it back to Anthony and Lily.
First, let's start with headlines. Rebuilding the South. African Americans spend over $1 million on education. Lincoln created a plan for Reconstruction. It was called Freedmen's Bureau. This program provided food, shelter, clothing, and medical care, and jobs. It also set up 4,000 schools for newly freed people.
Soon after the death of Abraham Lincoln, Congress passed a Reconstruction Act in 1867. The Congress had split the South in 5 districts. Not only is that what they did, but they passed the 13th and 14th Amendment. By 1870, they passed the 15th Amendment. Before the death of Abraham Lincoln, he made a Reconstruction plan called Freedmen's Bureau. During the time, more than 600 African Americans were elected to state office. Others were in Congress. Southerners didn't even want them in public office, and soon they had enough. They were so angry. There was a group of people who wanted that to end, and they called themselves the Ku Klux Klan. Soon, President Rutherford B. Hayes had enough and removed the Reconstruction Plan.
Thanks for watching. I'm Lily Simonson.
And I'm Anthony Ramirez.
Stay civil. Well, we did amazing today.
Oh, that's a wrap.
Yeah. That's a wrap.
Your fielder boy.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Sitting by the roadside on a summer's day, chatting with my messmates, passing time away. Lying in the shadow underneath the trees, goodness how delicious, eating goober peas. Peas, 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 eating goober peas. Peas, 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 eating goober peas. Goodness how delicious, eating goober peas. Peas, 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 delicious goober peas.